Hi and welcome. My name is Terry Canfield, and I plan to do a series of short clips about 5 minutes in length, which I guess is long by modern TikTok standards, but short by the old-fashioned standards I'm used to. I plan to talk about how we got here and how we can neutralize the dangers to democracy. Basically, I'm going to go back and summarize and distill the things I've been writing about for the past several years. Now, instead of writing this all out in a book, I think I'll just tell it to you in a series of small bites, which is quicker and easier, at least for me. I plan to start with the basics and build. So, here we go. How did we get here? By here, I'm thinking of January 6, 2021, when the sitting president of the United States could incite an insurrection against Congress and a major political party shields him. By here, I mean the feeling we have that there are dangerous forces at work whose purpose is to undermine democracy. When I say democracy, I mean a representative government in which all adults have an equal voice. So I'll start with what we might call the progressive view of American history, which goes like this. The founders started with some pretty good ideas. The idea of a government based on rule of law instead of whim of a king, the idea of an independent judiciary, the idea of an independent prosecutor whose job it is to decide who should be charged instead of leaving that up to the king, who then might weaponize the judicial system to attack enemies or perceived enemies. The idea that all men are created equal. These were good ideas. The problem was that the founders left a lot of people out of We the People. In fact, they included only white, well-educated, mostly landowning men. So the progressive view of American history is that as we've moved forward, we've expanded who is included in We the People. And as we did so, we've moved closer to the founding ideals and closer to a more perfect union. Okay, we come now to the Civil War, which expanded the electorate to include, in theory, black men. I say in theory because even though the 15th Amendment gave black men the right to vote, the reality is that blacks were still not given anything like equal access. And then we come to the 19th Amendment, which gave women the right to vote. Well, in reality, white women, but even white women were still largely excluded from the professions and from government. But we're moving in the right direction. Now, in the early part of the 20th century, there were no laws against fixing prices or manipulating markets or insider trading. If someone sold you rotten goods, it was your problem. You should have inspected better. Men, well, white men, who are willing to cheat a little bit could get rich. So another way that we've expanded who is included in We the People is through regulations that create fairness and allow more people the means and ability to participate in public life. So we come to the 30s and President Franklin Delano Roosevelt and his New Deal, which was a way to try to increase fairness. Now, the New Deal was a series of programs and projects and legislation. This is when we got the minimum wage, the 40-hour work week, workers' protections. This is when we got a number of our regulatory agencies. We got laws against fixing prices and manipulating markets. A progressive tax code helped usher in, for the first time in American history, a strong middle class. But blacks were still left out. Then we come to 1954 and the Supreme Court decision in Brown v. Board of Education. This was the case that held racial segregation in schools unconstitutional. This is the case that kicked off the modern civil rights movement, which in turn ignited the women's rights movement. As a result of these movements, for the past 60 or so years, for the first time in our nation's history, we're moving toward a true representative democracy. So liberals view American history as this upward slope. It's often taught in schools as if it's inevitable, as if the liberal heroes of the past fought and won the battle. So now it's like we're in a boat and we don't even have to paddle. The wave of history and what's right and good will carry us forward to a better and more inclusive tomorrow. Then what happened? According to this view, all was going well. And then over the past 50 or so years, the Republican Party went off the rails, and here we are. So I'll stop here, and in the next clip, I'll talk about an opposing view of American history. So thank you for joining me, and I'll see you next time. Well, I won't actually see you, but you know what I mean. Now I have to figure out how to turn this off, and then I can start a new one.